This is a review on Cesar Santos's painting DVD, Secrets of Figure Painting. So this DVD is the sister pair to his drawing one. So you can see it's the same model, same pose. So he starts off with doing a really detailed, in-depth drawing, and then he moves on to painting the figure in this one. Here's a close-up of the front. Trying to get the glare off of it. And the back. And the inside. So it has 4 DVDs on it, which are over 18 hours in total. So first, there is a 30-minute transfer drawing. And so it starts off, you have the finished product of this drawing, and he shows you how he transfers this image, the drawing, onto a blank piece of canvas. And so he tells you very specifically how he sprays the charcoal drawing to fix the charcoal on the paper. And you don't see him doing this, but he really is really specific with how he explains himself. But then he does show you, so once the drawing is fixed, so you can rub over it and the charcoal's not gonna move, he shows you how he uses tracing paper and traces the image, and then how he gets that onto the canvas. And he explains where he places the figure on the canvas and why compositionally. And then we go to the underpainting, which is 130 minutes. So in this section, he explains that he's using a photo reference and not a live model. And so he's using the same reference that he used in the first DVD for the drawing one. And in this, he's really thorough he explains the pros and cons of using a photo as a reference opposed to a live model as a reference. He shows how he takes the photo, how to get the less lens distortion as possible, talks about how to light the figure properly, how to pose the model. There's a lot of information in there. Okay, so in this section also, he is also talking about his palette. And so his first DVD that he put out was a portrait painting, and I guess there was comments where he was using a palette that had dried paint on it already. And so I guess people were confused what was dry paint and what was the wet paint that he was using. So if you had that first DVD and you're watching this one, or thinking about looking at this DVD, he has a fresh palette that he uses, so it's really clear what paint that he's using, because it's all the paint on it. There's no dried paint, so it's all the paint that he's using to make this specific painting. And so then for the underpainting, there is a list of all the colors that he uses on the back of the DVD. For the underpainting, he uses only 3 colors, so it's really simple. He starts at the head and works his way down the figure then. And then goes to the first painting, which is 57 minutes long. And for this, he adds more colors to his palette. He talks about each color and explains why he's using them. He shows you his mixtures and how he mixes paint. He talks about how his mixtures are not really rigid, but he keeps them flexible. But the important thing is to be having the relationship between the colors be succinct. And so he goes into more detail and explains all this. And then he explains what the first painting is, the mindset you should be in, and what the goal is. He starts at the head of the model, works his way down after first correcting some drawing errors. And then the last part on the first DVD is the interview of Cesar Santos, where Eric Rose is interviewing him. So if you have this DVD, the interview's the same on both of them. So it talks about his life, him growing up in Cuba, what that was like, and him traveling to the United States and to Miami, and his art education then, and then his art education with going to the Angel Academy in Florence, and then what he did after that. And there's a lot of information on what he thinks about art, his syncretism, which is his thing, and then also he talks about master copies and the best way to approach doing master copies. And then the second DVD in the set is all just the first painting continued, which is 261 minutes. So at the start of this, he makes little corrections and then keeps working down the figure on that first painting. Then at the end of it, he looks at it all, makes little corrections here and there, and then calls it a day. Okay, the third DVD in the set is the second painting, which is 163 minutes. And so for the second painting, he explains what the second painting is, what your goals should be, and the mindset that you should be in while you're doing this. He does add more colors to his palette, and he explains the colors and why he adds them, and makes up some more mixtures, and he shows you how he's mixing them. And so he starts out then by oiling out the painting. He has an interesting way of oiling out paintings, which I hadn't considered before. He also shows this in his portrait painting DVD. So it's pretty cool, and he shows you how he does it. I think it's a nice method, and I'm definitely gonna steal this tip. And he also shows the brushes that he's gonna be using for the second painting. And then he starts painting, starts at the head, and then works his way down. And then you have the second painting part 2, which is 121 minutes, where he keeps working on that second painting, working down the figure. Then you got the high speed view, which is 5 minutes, which is really cool to see. On his Cesar Santos's YouTube channel, you can see, I think it's 10 minutes, not 5 minutes though, for the drawing progress. He doesn't have one posted yet, at least. I don't know if he's going to do it for the painting one, but it's cool to see the whole process sped up really quickly. And then you have the exhibit of work, which is 5 minutes, which you get to see a lot of his paintings then. It's shown like a slideshow, and you get to see a lot of his syncretism paintings. All right, in the final fourth DVD of the set, you get the second painting, part 3, which is 191 minutes. So he's working down the figure, and he's explaining that his method for painting this is a little bit different than if you've seen his DVD for his portrait painting. The portrait painting one, he paints wet into wet. So the brush strokes are a lot more hidden. It's super, super smooth. This one is different. He's not painting wet into wet, so you can see the brush strokes built up differently, and he says it's kind of like a patchy look to it. So with this one, you do get a slightly different style of painting by changing up the painting technique. Also on this, you don't see, I guess on this you don't see the feet of the model, but he does change up the foot that's holding most of the weight. He doesn't want to show like that foot that's holding most of the weight. The toes are kind of like spread out a lot and tense because they're holding the weight of the body. So what he does is he wants to idealize the foot. So he shows a photo reference that he's using from a Bouguereau foot, from a painting that's kind of similar to what he wants to get. And then he says that he's not copying it, but he's using this as inspiration. So that's kind of cool. You can see how if you are using photo reference or even working from life, what you can do to change different parts of the model if it doesn't show in the photo reference, or if you're working from life and the model can't hold their body in that specific way. And then finally, you have the final revisions, which is 57 minutes long. And so for this, he's looking at the painting as a whole, and he uses glazing techniques and also starts to work on the background of the figure. He scrapes some paint off the background with his palette knife, and then he also builds up areas in the background with a lot of really thick, light paint, so working with impasto. Oh yeah, and then there's also advertisement for other Streamline videos that you can see for 9 minutes. That's at the end of the DVD. Okay, so overall, I'm really, really impressed with Streamline, how they do the camera work and camera angles for this. If you've seen any other Streamline videos, this is definitely up to par with what they do. So you see there's a nice camera angle of the painting. Sometimes it's close-up shots of Cesar Santos working on a section of the painting. What I really like is a lot of the times it's a split screen. So you see on one side of the screen the painting that he's working on and in a specific area that he's working on, and then on the other side of the split screen you see the photo reference in that same area. So you can see then how he's translating an area from the photo reference into brush strokes to make it into the painting. And then also there's also a camera angle that's straight down on his palette, so every time that he puts his brush into a new mixture, you can really clearly see what he's doing and how he got that mixture that he's now applying to the canvas. And they really do show everything, so you see every brush stroke that's getting applied to make this painting. And so you really do get a lot of information with this DVD, and especially if you like Cesar Santos's technique, he definitely shows you everything from transferring the drawing to the canvas, and you see everything all the way up to the finished painting. He talks about the colors that he uses, shows you how he gets his mixtures, and the different mediums and brushes that he uses. And the whole time that he's doing this, he's talking, so you really get what's going on in his mind, and he's talking a lot about art and his thought process for all of this. It's kind of funny because I don't know if he finished this in 4 days with the 4 DVDs, but you can tell that it's really long days that he's working on this painting, and so kind of at the end of sections, what he's saying kind of gets a little more creative. There was this one time where I'm watching this and my husband walks in the room and Cesar Santos is talking about mowing the grass, and my husband like kind of makes this face like what is he talking about? And I'm like, no, you're taking it out of context. He's talking about mowing the grass, but it's like in relation to painting and edge quality, so it's kind of funny sometimes. Okay, and then lastly, one thing that I wanted to say is the print on the DVD is a bit darker than what it looks like during the filming process. So when you're watching the DVD, the painting actually looks more colorful and more luminous. So I think it just printed darker perhaps on the cover. So the shadows look a lot more luminous, and it's kind of more like, kind of makes me think of like the Bouguereau paintings where you have a figure and they look like they're almost like they're painted outside, because you can still see clear shadows, but they're really luminous and colorful. So if you go to Streamline's website, you can watch a trailer for it. And so you can see him working on the painting, and then you can see what the model or the painting actually looks like a little bit brighter. Okay, so it looks like this DVD on Streamline's website is $197. So I'll put a link in the description box below if you would like to own it yourself.